All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to World Without Rule Law. And today I want to talk briefly about the state of Virginia, and more specifically, the recent shift in the political tide and what that means going forward. So we talked about um, a lot of these counties in response to the Second Amendment proposals that are going to be made, quite possibly going to be made laws this next session, they're adapting Second Amendment sanctuary status. The county I live in, among them, they voted last week or 2 weeks ago to adapt that Second Amendment sanctuary status. Now, largely, that's just a symbolic gesture. It doesn't have a lot of teeth. I talked to the sheriff after the meeting in pretty good length about it. Um, you know, it they're going to have a relaxed approach on it. In other words, they're not going to go out of their way to enforce any of these laws. However, a lot of the roads are patrolled by the state police, and so if you're like most handguns do have 10 round capacity or more, you're in possession of these guns, then you get stopped in those roads, you're going to be subject to felony arrest. Also, as it relates to possible confiscation, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but it's something that, it's possible down the road. So there's a lot of things that are still pretty detrimental, but putting aside the Second Amendment, there's still also some things that I feel are key and possibly even more important. Hello, Virginia Prepper. Hello, Supplemental Seminary. Pastor Toller. And so, welcome. These laws that are being proposed by the Virginia legislature are there's morals laws in there as well. Now, don't get me wrong, I support the Second Amendment 100%. I really do, but there's more important things in there. They want to redefine the family. So God defined what the family is, and so how does the state of Virginia or any other municipality or local government or legislature have the right or to redefine that? So there's legislation in there for that. There's legislation in there saying that minors don't need parental consent to move forward in the abortion process. So, you have a 14-year-old daughter, she gets pregnant, you don't even have the right to know if she wants to get an abortion, let alone sign off on it. She wants to get a tattoo, she needs your signature. She wants to get an abortion, it's none of your business. That's the direction the state of Virginia is going in. Sadly, like so many other states. And so there's a whole list of these laws, right? And the Second Amendment ones are pretty impacting as well. They're going to gut the Second Amendment. But I attended the meeting that was at the Board of Supervisors where our county voted to become Second Amendment sanctuary county. And it was flooded. There was hundreds, if not over 1,000 people. Could have been over, I didn't count, but it was close if there wasn't. And I believe up to date it's 30. I could be wrong about that, but it's in that area, 30-ish number of counties have adapted this Second Amendment sanctuary status, and many of them, the meetings to do so were also flooded over capacity, record numbers. Now, I talked about this a little before, and it disheartens me that there's Christians out there that will die at their doorstep to keep their gun rights, as I hear a shot go off in the background, but they won't sit down and write their congressman about these other laws, these morals laws, these laws that impact the family structure, the family unit. You know, an erosion of any laws, the erosion of the Constitution by the implementation of unconstitutional laws is detrimental to society anyway. But when you look at the nature of the laws that they're proposing, and again, I revert back to these, changing the family definition of a family and the abortion issues and the Second Amendment issues as well. It's not good. These rights that we enjoy, that our Constitution protects, are inalienable rights given to us by God. The state of Virginia or any other state does not have the right to alienate us from them. And that's exactly what's happening. So, a lot of the reason why I'm doing this in a live stream is because it avoids hours of. So, when this video is over, it'll post automatically. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to include the link on the bottom of the video in the description. I'm going to include the link for the state of Virginia representatives, contact information, email, mailing address, phone number, whatever they have in there. They have a list of them. I sat down and I emailed my reps and the senators voicing my opinions about these things. And I think that if half of the people that went out and attended a Second Amendment sanctuary county status meeting wrote their congressman, again, am I disillusioned about how much weight that's going to hold? It's going to make an impact. I don't think it could, there's no real teeth to that either, but it lets the legislators know that we, the people, have a voice. We have opinions. We have, the will of the people is strong in this direction. And I think it's important to portray that as these bills are introduced and moved through the legislative process, there's any number of steps along the way that can kill them. And so I'm not going to pretend to understand that process completely, because I don't. Apologize, I guess. All right, I'm sorry about that. Technical glitches beyond my control. Of course, if I wasn't such a noob, they would be within my control, but they're not. We lost the stream. Back now, Daniel, hopefully. It said resume stream. I have no clue. But anyway, I'm going to include the links to contact these congressmen. Thank you, Daniel. Because, and the Senate, here's the thing. And as I was saying, I don't fully understand the process. But, hello, Dad on YouTube. But either House or the Senate, either a congressman or a senator, can introduce a bill. Now, this is according to my limited understanding, and if somebody understands it further, or deeper, or more accurately, please chime in the comments. But if a congressman or a senator introduces legislation, and a lot of times what they do is they have both do it simultaneously, so that if it gets shot down in one side, the other side stays alive. So it goes in and it gets considered, and it goes in for discussion. It goes into committee, gets assigned to a committee. Now, as it moves along, it could get killed anywhere. There could be no interest, and they could just vote it down right away, or it can go, further and get voted down later, or it gets introduced to law. So this process can be lengthy, and there's discussion along the way, and it moves from committee to committee. As it does, as it gets assigned to a committee, it could be a whole different bunch of legislators, and quite often is, that will discuss it and consider it, not necessarily just always the ones that introduce it. So we need to follow these pieces of legislation, and we need to keep contacting them with our opinions every step that it moves along. That's the best way to have our voice heard on these matters. And it's important because it lets them know that, lets them know the will of the people. But I fear that many people will not do that. They'll drop the ball on that. It's great to show up at your county for a sanctuary county meeting. It's great to do that, but it is largely symbolic, and there's nothing wrong with that. But really, if we want our voices to be heard, we need to get in touch with the legislators, the people that consider and vote on these laws, or these bills that could become laws. We need to let them know that that does not represent the will of the people. In doing so, maybe we can get some of this stuff killed, or at least, amended so they're not as harshly impacting. Ideally, I'd like to see them killed. You know, there's so the so okay, so the link that I'm going to put in there has, one is the contact information for the legislators. The other one is the site that tracks the movement of the legislation. So you can choose your state, and in our case, Virginia. You go in and you can look at all the laws. Not for anything, but all these laws are being introduced by Democrats, and we can track those. We can see what they are, what they're proposing. The language of the legislation, the bill is in there. And we can be involved every step of the way to voice our opinion one way or the other. And you know what? If you're for it, voice your opinion on that too, because that's the process. But if we just stand back and do nothing, we satisfied our need to be involved by showing up at the Second Amendment Sanctuary County meeting. And I'm going to tell you that is the tip of the iceberg. And really, these anti-family, anti-moral laws are more impacting. Society is breaking down due to a moral breakdown, a moral decline. It's the family unit, it's a corrupt government. The morals decay leads to those things. Look back through history. Look at the Roman Empire. Look at the Babylonian Empire. Look at all these, really 150-ish years is about the lifespan of an empire. So we've already far exceeded that. But they all break down from within. They all break down from within. They're not, there's no power, I honestly believe, there's no outside power that could take down the United States. The demise, if it is to be, of the United States will come from within. We're living in a most divisive time in this country than we've ever seen. And so that's our problem. It stems from an absence of morality. It stems from an absence of a respect and reverence for God. And these things are going to hurt this country. And we're seeing this. What Virginia is proposing for these laws is going to make Connecticut look conservative. It's going to put it up there. It's going to make in my opinion, it's going to be equal to, if not worse than, New York and California. If all these things go forward the way they want them to, within a couple cycles, we're going to be number one. In the far extreme left. That's not good. But so many people in this state are conservative and have conservative values, but those small pockets of population control. And I know we talked about this before. I want to go through it again, but that's the case in many areas. Look at upstate New York. New York State is largely agricultural. Number one, number two in business. Yeah. New York State's largely agricultural. It's largely rural. Yet, how do they end up with the worst laws in the country? Because in New York City, because millions of people are in one pinpoint of an area. And so they control the tide of the state. Virginia Prepper saying the problem is government employees and mass immigration have changed the demand. Yeah, because we have people living in Northern Virginia and they work in the DC area, and all they really do is sleep and get their mail in Virginia. They're not Virginians. They do not represent the ideals, the ideology of most of Virginia. But it's a reality that we have to deal with. But we need to voice our opinions. We need to get out there and speak our minds. And it's great that you showed up at a rally for a Second Amendment sanctuary status in your county. I did as well. But that's the beginning, that's not the end. In a decade, Loudon has gone from strongly Republican to strong. It's sad. It's sad. It really is sad. I'm glad Virginia Prepper's in here because you guys follow this stuff. If you're a Virginia resident, go over to his website and, you know, take a look at some of his videos. How does Virginia do the electoral college? I didn't read that. Let me see. I can't get it back for some reason. But if we need to stand up. Now, Virginia Prepper, I'm going to address an issue that I watched a video of his, and this is to say, okay, first of all, I'm a strong Second Amendment supporter. He was outlining the Virginia Citizens Defense League, which I looked into and believe is a great organization. I'm actually going to the way we do our budget, we get our spending money, my wife and I, in certain increments. I'm going to join them very soon. It's $25 to join. But I'm going to tell you that I disagree with one point because, first of all, I respect him and I respect his opinions, and it's okay to disagree because we're not snowflakes. We're not mamby-pamby yes men that have to go along with each other. We each, as individuals, are entitled to our rights and our opinions. And I agree with 90%, 90 something percent of what he says and what he stands for. But he's calling for, there's a rally in uh, January 20th, I believe, in Richmond, and I do plan on attending. And it's to show the support. And again, I believe it's largely symbolic, but that's okay. It still has value, and I do plan on going. But in one of his videos, he said, we need to show up armed and carrying rifles and 30 round mags to show. I disagree with that, and here's why. And again, I respectfully disagree. And here's why. I think that there needs to be a certain temperament in the posture we take. If we want to be heard, if we want to be considered, we want to have credibility, we need to go in humbly. Now, don't get me wrong. Humility is not weakness. But if we show up loaded for bear, oh, okay, I'm sorry, this is not, there's two Virginia Preppers. Right, Richard. Sorry, I got it now. I just, ding, the light bulb clicked. So the other Virginia Prepper. And again, I respect him and I support his mission and I support what he's standing for and I support what he's doing for the state of Virginia. And thank you. I agree too about not showing up armed and that not openly armed. Bingo, Daniel. And you know what? This is where it gets to personal philosophy. Because I have a concealed carry permit, I choose to conceal carry almost every time I leave the house, unless I'm going to the courthouse or something, somewhere where it's prohibited. But I always conceal carry. I used to have property in Vermont, which was an open carry state. When I was on the property, I would open carry. When I'm on the property here, I'll open carry. When I leave the property, I conceal. And that's just my own belief. I don't have a problem seeing people that open carry. People do what they want. That's why we live in a free country, because it's your right to do that. And if you choose to do that, then that's fine. But I want to conceal for my own personal reasons. You can agree, you can disagree. You can disparage me for it all you want. But at the end of the day, that's my decision. And so to show up in Richmond with rifles, first of all, it lends a posture that could be dangerous. And you know what? There could be a time in history when it comes to that, time in the future. But actually, I don't believe January 20th is that time. I don't believe we're there. I don't want to be there, and I don't believe we should be the ones to make the move to be there. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is the other side, the government side, sends up a defense mechanism when they see that posture. They are not going to credibly listen to what we have to say. In their minds, they see armed men with rifles standing on the steps. Their response is, how do I mitigate this situation to appease these people, de escalate, and get them out of here as quickly as we can? And you know what? That's probably a prudent approach. If we were on that side, I believe that would be my approach as well. So, in that, are they going to assign us with any credibility? Are they going to listen to us honestly and at will? I don't believe they are. So, I believe in that it defeats the mission of even going down there. Again, that's my own opinion. But those are the two main reasons, and there's other things, but like really this is going to be a precarious time because we need to really think before we move. Actually, I think they would send infiltrators to start a fight and give it, and that's quite possible. That's quite possible, Richard. Um, but we don't, but it's speculation. It's speculative, but absolutely not outside the realm of possibility. So there's a lot of things that fall into that category that, you don't necessarily want to go there because it is speculative and to some degree, maybe conspiratorial, but I don't believe so. I believe it's accurate. I believe what you just pointed out is a real potential problem. And so what how does I think it was that what's that, the art of war, Sun Tzu, right? The best fight, how's the wording on it? I'm going to butcher it, but like the best fight to have is the one you avoid, right? You're going to win the fight you avoid every time, or however, whatever it is. I'm not a philosopher, but I understand the principle of it. The best thing to do to come out on top is not to fight. Now, there may be a day come when, for some reason, I thought if I tapped this, the comments would come back. I'm not catching them. Oh, there it is. Or for that matter, some right wing hothead starts shooting. Either way, a bad day. Absolutely right. The potential is there. When we approach with that posture, the potential for a dangerous situation is there. And it could even almost be accidental in a way. Because as escalation happens, it's volatile. There's volatility in that. And it's not always easy to de-escalate. Once you find that oh crap, it went further than I wanted it to go, how do you back it down? It's not always that easy. You can control escalation more than you can control de-escalation as an individual. And for that reason, I think show up concealed carry and show up with a clear, articulate message. And because there's the other thing too. We go in there, and I don't know how much even speaking we're going to get, but as this issue projects and as this issue progresses, hopefully we will have a voice in that. And so when and if that happens, that voice needs to be articulate, it needs to be clear, it needs to be intelligent. The people that just spout off stupid, crazy stuff aren't necessarily wrong. The ideology and the message of what they're saying isn't wrong, but the way they're saying it does not help the cause. And so we need to look at that. And that's difficult because there needs, and I go back to that Virginia Citizens Defense League. They seem pretty organized. And most of what I read and saw from them seems okay. Now, they may be leaning toward that, and I don't specifically remember if I read anything from them that stated that, like show up with your rifles. But it could just be the feeling I got, the flavor of what they were saying. They were it read to me like they were leaning in that direction. But again, I don't specifically know that. Like, I'd have to look deeper into it and really know before I say, because I just read a few of their things, but they definitely support that rally. Now, what good that's going to be, again, is it going to be symbolic? To a large degree, yes, but it shows the legislators that the will of the people is strong in one direction or another. They also believe they don't know if the legislation's even if the legislative session is even going to be in session, because I think the 20th is Martin Luther King Day. We're looking at it on the calendar, and so I don't know if they start, when they start or whatever. So there's a good chance that we could show up there and there won't be anybody there anyway. Although I'm sure the message is still just as clear, because even if they are in session, I don't think they're going to come out and have a discussion with us. So I just think, okay, takeaways on that. That's a good idea. It's important to go. If you live in Virginia and you can attend that, please do so. I plan on going. Believe we need to approach it with caution. I mean, it's easy to say be careful. That's good advice in every single situation in life. But I really think we need to look at how we're approaching that, the posture that we're taking, the message that sends, the ability to be taken seriously. Because when they see that, in their mind flashes a light bulb that says radical right wing nut job. And I don't agree that that's what any of those people that'll be there that they are. Of course, there may be some, obviously, paint with a broad brush, but I don't believe the large majority of those people fit into that category. But that's what the other side's going to see. Because to take that aggressive posture, first of all, does it really need to be? If you want to go there and voice your support of the Second Amendment, do you need to be carrying a rifle to do that? I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, if you think you do, I guess I'll respect that, because everybody's entitled to their own beliefs and their own thoughts on it. I don't think it's the way to go. And so, again, back to Virginia Prepper, not the Virginia Prepper that's in the chat, the other Virginia Prepper. I respect him. I support his mission. I support what he's doing. I agree with 97% of what he says. Actually showing up at that meeting armed is the only thing he's ever said that I didn't really agree with. So I'm not bashing him in any way. I support him, and I encourage anyone who lives in Virginia to go to his channel and to look at his content and to, form your own opinion. about it. But I think his heart's in the right place. And so when I'm going to cut this live stream down because we're just at 30 minutes, which is longer than I want it to go. But when it posts, I'm going to go in and I'm going to provide the links. Again, links for the legislation, the legislators, contact information, and links for the bill tracker. And again, in that site, you can put any state you want in. Put in Virginia active bills. It's very easy to to maneuver, and you'll see. And take some time and go and read some of the legislation that they're proposing, and look at who's proposing it, and wrap your mind around all that and what that means. And I think you'll find that there's a lot of disturbing stuff in there, and there's a lot of disturbing stuff that doesn't involve the Second Amendment. And the Second Amendment stuff is pretty disturbing. They want to take away the you're going to be a felon if you enter into instruction in any way. So you're a guy with a 12-year-old son, you want to teach him to shoot and bring him out, you're a felon. That's subversive. They're not, two buddies want to go to the range. Hey, that's a nice new gun you got. Let me see. Well, how does it, run through it for me? Right? That's illegal. You're a felon now because now you're instructing me how to use that gun. Those things are deeply, deeply disturbing. It's deeply disturbing where they're going with all this. And that's a whole nother, we can go for hours on that. But I encourage you to look at that stuff. I encourage you to contact your congressman, your senator, if you live in the state of Virginia. If you can, go out the 20th for that meeting. Use caution, use discernment, use discretion how you carry yourself, how you posture yourself. Remember, it's a peaceful protest. That's the purpose for it. It's symbolic in nature, but it shows support. You can show support for the Second Amendment without being armed or without being openly armed. Draw from it what you will. Make your own decisions as a, sentient being. And I'll respect it either way. I think to a certain degree, my wife wanted to come with me too. And I think the more people, I'm conflicted about this because the more people that are there, the better. But if people are going to be there with rifles, and if this is going to be that situation, do I want my wife there? So, I'm on the fence about that one. But thank you all for coming, and God bless you. God bless America.